back to Question Intense with me, Matt. Okay, it's a quite mild January morning again. I've completed the school run and I'm wearing, well, not even arguably, easily my favourite of the Tom Ford private blends. And today we're going to be talking about this one, which is, I've got to be careful here because the lid does come off this, Tom Ford's Italian Cypress. An absolute beautiful fragrance, and one that is a bit of a conduit for memories. Now, I've mentioned in previous videos that when I was a young man, I used to wear Ralph Lauren's Polo Green all the time, and then sort of after 10, 12 years or something like that, I started wearing other things. And then a couple of years back, I got a sample of Italian Cypress, and it did bring back lots of memories from, you know, wearing Polo Green, especially the Cosmere one, the older one. I haven't smelt it in a long time, so I don't know where it is at the moment. But this came out in 2008 with a lot of the other private blends, and then it disappeared, and I know it's actually back now. I mean, it's described as an aromatic sheep. To me, it's quite a spicy, almost lemon driven at the front. There's some citrus in there, and then it becomes very woodsy, and it's all about the cypress. It has a green feel to it. If we look at the notes are quite simple. You have citrus notes, you have basil, you have mint, you have woods, and you have cypress. Now, you know, it is quite instantly recognisable as something that's been inspired by Polo Green, or probably more vintage Halston Z14. Now, Halston Z14 is a fragrance I absolutely love, and it is very, very similar to Italian Cypress, whereas Halston, the current version of Halston Z14, which you can get, is quite soapy. Italian Cypress isn't. It's clean and it kind of almost touches on a soapiness, but it isn't soapy like the current version of Halston Z14 is, which when I first discovered the Z14, I implored Rich to buy a bottle, and he did, and he found it way too soapy for him, so he wasn't a fan, but I absolutely love it. So with Italian Cypress, this is for me, it's a fragrance that can be worn all year round. A lot of people seem to think of it as a winter fragrance, but for me, I like wearing it all year round. I think it's particularly good in warmer climes because it does smell very clean. Well, I mean, I'm wearing it at the moment, and what we'll do is we'll have another little spray now, just for the purposes of the review. So instantly, with that opening, there are definitely citrus notes that come out straight away, and I get kind of a lemon thing with a little bit of mint. The mint isn't massive, and the basil and the mint and the citrus all come together. But let's not kid ourselves. This is all about cypress. This is a beautiful foresty smell that comes out. It's very refined, it's very smooth, it's very well blended. And also, I don't hear this mentioned very often, but as this starts to dry down, I get almost like a little hint of smoke coming through. And it's just glorious. It's the perfect work fragrance. I think this is very much a masculine fragrance. I don't know, it just makes me feel so good smelling this, and it just makes me feel so good wearing this. It's one that always gets compliments. It's not a massive fragrance. It does project very well. It seems to, this is one where normally I find that, you know, I prefer a fragrance with a strong sillage over projection. This one projects more than it has in terms of, you know, sillage versus projection. This is more in the projection camp than the sillage one, but it does have some sillage, and it does project very well. It lasts an incredibly long time. This is an all-day fragrance. Once you've applied it, you've got it for the day. But it's never too much. You know, it's always with you. You'll catch smells of it all day long, especially if you're at work. You'll constantly be getting wafts of it. But I think this is such a perfect work scent because it's not going to over dominate the you know, if you're in an office, you're not sitting in a cloud, and your colleagues aren't going to have to put up with you, you know, sort of smelling, you know, wearing your fragrance for you all day. It doesn't deliver in that respect. It does last a very long time, and it does push out a little bit, and it is an absolutely amazing fragrance. I love the presentation that Tom Ford private blends come in. These bottles are really cool. They look great. Really good sprayers, very functional. Absolutely no criticisms there whatsoever. I do have a massive criticism with this though now. Now, when it disappeared, it obviously was gone for quite a few years, and a lot of people really liked Italian Cypress, so there was a lot of chasing after it, and you know, old bottles of it were flying around. I got this from a friend who let me have it for an incredibly low price, so I'm really, really pleased to have it in my collection finally. And I do wear it quite a bit, so I'm going to have to sort of put the brakes on it, because I just looked on the Tom Ford website now to see how much 50 mils of this goes for in the current market, and I was quite shocked. A 50 ml bottle, the same as this, from Tom Ford's website, £220. £220 for 50 mils. I think that's outrageous. So, you know, I'm going to treasure this and use it very, very sparingly. I didn't realise it was quite that expensive, otherwise I wouldn't have worn it for the school run. I would have saved it for a more special or more sort of, you know, auspicious occasion, shall we say. But yeah, that's what that costs at the moment. So that is, I don't know, I couldn't justify spending that kind of money on a 50 ml bottle of anything, let alone this. And I do love this, but this is it's a great fragrance, don't get me wrong, I'm not bashing it. The only, you know, if it was cheaper, I would wear it a lot more. However, for me, it is a nostalgic kick, and it does smell great, but there's no way on earth that I would be paying anything like that or anywhere near that kind of money for a bottle of Tom Ford's Italian Cypress. £220, way too much in my opinion. However, if you wanted to do it on the cheap, and there are some other options available to you, first and foremost, I have mentioned this, which is Halston Z14. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about this because I have done a very lengthy review of Halston Z14, and in the review we look at the origins of Halston Z14 and how I'm pretty damn sure that without Halston Z14 you would not have Italian Cypress, especially the vintage, which I haven't smelled. Apparently it smells incredibly similar to this. What I will say with the current iteration of Z14, this is a 120 ml bottle and it costs about £15, so it's an amazing bargain. Really, really good performance. It is quite spicy. Now, it's soapy and there's a lot of cinnamon in the opening, so you need to be prepared for that. But once it dries down, it is pretty good, and they're not a well, you know, you'll certainly smell them, and you know, they remind you of each other without any doubt at all. So this is a really good budget way of smelling like Tom Ford's Italian Cypress. They're not the same. As I say, you know, the Halston has got its flaws. It is a little soapy, and the cinnamon note is a bit too much for some people, but for me, I think this is really good and well worth exploring. The other, even cheaper way of smelling like Tom Ford's Italian Cypress is to go to Perfume Parlour, who are based in the UK. They're based in Leicester, and they do a clone of it, which they call Italian Cypress. This is £12 for 50 mils, and it smells pretty good. It's not a bad copy at all. It really does give an impression of Italian Cypress, and it does really last as well. Let me just give a little spray of this as well now to do a side-by-side comparison. So straight away, there is a difference. This is a refined opening. This is not sharp. This is not screechy. This is... But undeniably, they smell very similar. Now, I've not worn this for a while, but what I do remember is it takes a little while to warm up. So once you've sprayed it, it will sit on your hand like that. It's quite thick, it's quite oily, and it does last a very long time. But it takes about half an hour to really get into gear. And after that half an hour, it really does start smelling an awful lot like Italian Cypress. So much so, you kind of think, oof, why would I bother? You know, £220 for that, £12 for that. Obviously, there's going to be a massive difference in quality and materials and things like that that are used. But let's be honest, £220 for a 50 ml bottle of a perfume when you can get something that smells very similar to it for 12 quid. I think it's an easy one for me. I got my Tom Ford Italian Cypress very cheaply from a friend, so I'm in a very good position. So, you know, I'm lucky. I've got access to both. But seriously, when I'm doing the school run from now on, I will wear the Perfume Parlour one it's a no-brainer, and I will save the Tom Ford one for best. They're not going to be identical, and they're not going to be as, you know, there's obviously, as I said, there's a difference in quality and there's a gulf in the materials used. However, they do give a really good impression of each other, so that's good. Whether you're into clones or not, I personally, I'm quite ambivalent about them. I'm not particularly anti-clones, and I'm not particularly pro-clones. I think there's a place in the marketplace for them, and I think they're an excellent way of people being able to smell some of these more expensive fragrances that are out there and enjoy them, and certainly get a really good impression of what it would be like to own the real thing. And then maybe one day, you know, if you come across a cheap bottle, or, you know, you win the lottery or something like that, and you can replace them with more expensive fragrances, or, you know, the originals. I also think, you know, perfume companies sometimes bring this on themselves when they're charging this kind of money. I mean, I'm not having a pop at small and niche houses or independent perfumers that are, you know, running on a very small budget. They're importing materials, they're doing all the research and development themselves, they've got to buy the bottles themselves, they've got to design everything themselves, and they don't have the resources of some of the big companies out there, and they can charge, you know, sort of big amounts of money for fragrances. I understand that, because they need to keep going. But someone like Tom Ford, who has a massive empire, he has, you know, unlimited resource to, you know, research and development. He has countless perfumers coming in to work with him. He's got a huge budget, and then to charge something like that for a small amount of juice like that, I don't think that's pretty good. And in which case, you know, someone like the Tom Fords of the world, when they're moaning about clone houses knocking out a bottle of perfume that costs 12 quid, that smells very, very similar to one that's costing 220 quid, what do they think is going to happen? You know, surely they're going to expect this sort of thing. So there it is. The options are there for you. You know, if your budget is unlimited, go for the Tom Ford, because it's by far the better of the three. If you want a cheaper version of it, but you don't want to buy a clone, buy the Holston Z14, which, by the way, is a lot older than Italian Cypress. In fact, if anything, this is a clone of this. And if you don't particularly care, and you want to smell like Tom Ford's Italian Cypress, and you don't want to spend any money, Perfume Parlour, £12, you can't go wrong. Anyway, listen, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. Lots more reviews coming, so please keep in touch and subscribe if you like, and we will see you on the next review. Thank you very much for your time. Cheers. Bye.